So today, welcome. Happy Wednesday. As we were just talking about, we are heading up to Easter weekend. For those of you who do practice or whatnot, tomorrow's my favorite church service ever. So I think it's a good, important one as we talk about cultivating camaraderie. So we're going to look at from movement to momentum today. And I'm really excited to talk about this because there's nothing cooler than really focusing on how we actually bring people together and looking at this. So if you do not know me at this point and have been following along on the masterclass series, my name is Dr. Claire Muselman. I am a professor at Drake University and the Chief Risk Officer of Emory Industrial. My passion is to focus on the science of people and human behavior. I think it's absolutely fascinating to understand the why we operate in the ways that we do and how you can have every single strategy and everything thought out and every single detail of things put into place in the most perfect light, and human behavior will always screw it up. It's fascinating. So I also like the chameleon effect. I talk about that, of being able to navigate your situations with wherever you're at, whether you're blue collar or you're white collar, or you're talking to a board of directors, or you are talking to students, being able to really chameleon wherever you need to be. I am a giant Iowa Hawkeye fan, and I'm Iowa nice, which we will talk about a little bit. And one of the things that I have done really well, so my background, I have an interesting colored childhood. And one of the things that I've been really good at doing in my life has been to circle wagons. So as we talk about cultivating camaraderie, this is also in how you protect yourself in certain areas. And most importantly, I am glitter and sparkles. So that is who I am and why I'm qualified to be here today. So our learning objectives that we're going to cover today. We're going to talk about human connection. We are going to talk about the science. Why do we need this? Is it important? Then we're going to talk about the basics of building rapport. Like, how do you exchange with someone else? Then we're going to talk about it from a professional network development standpoint, and then what it means to do that within a team. And then we're going to end it with how this is very different for women than men. Some pretty cool stuff. So hoping to get this all in an hour. I have tons of information for you guys, and I'm excited to share with you today. So let's start. Human connection. If you want to go ahead and either put in the chat, or if you feel like raising your hand, anybody felt isolated during the pandemic, when you're isolated from friends and family and we're missing that? I see Kay and her nodding her head. Hi, Kay, good morning. So let's talk about that for a second. Like, we all got isolated from our friends and family and our social lives. Human connection is a basic fundamental need. It is a basic fundamental need that comes to us from when we even start as babies. So when I talk about I had a colored childhood past, I was a foster kiddo that got passed around as a baby to multiple families. And so when we're little, we need that bond. We need that basic fundamental need of human connection as a child. And so when it is torn apart or ripped apart, so if you want to give your own past an analysis right now, sometimes that's a lot harder to connect as you get older because we did not have that sustainable upbringing of human connection. So if you want to take a moment and pause and think about what your childhood experiences were like. Were you close with your family? Were you not? Did you hug a lot? Did you not? There are certain components that kind of make us into who we are as adults, from an attachment styles and from looking at how we physiologically bring ourselves to the table. So when we look at this, a lot of the science that goes behind this stems from Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If we look at, we can give people the physiological needs such as air, food, shelter, sleep, clothing, etc. Very basic. Safety is then next. We as humans are wired with the negativity bias. If you've not heard of that, it's kind of because we all have that fight, flight, freeze mode. And so when we're looking at how we are trying to show up and how we're trying to thrive, we have to have our basic needs, and then we have to make sure that we're safe. So we tend to just be like, all right, my fear cycles are up. What's going on? I am here to survive. As we continue to progress, here's where we're at today. We are looking at love and belonging. People want to belong. They want to feel that they're part of a tribe, that they have something bigger than themselves, and that they have people that they can rely on and trust. So we're looking at different levels of connection throughout building camaraderie right now. We're looking at it from a friendship standpoint, an intimacy standpoint, looking at what your family is. And remember, family does not have to be blood. Family is those people that have your back, that are those backbones, those rocks for you, that really help you with having that sense of connection and help you with the power of choice, those people that choose you no matter what happens in life. So a little bit of the science behind that. We are also hardwired for needing human connection. And trust is the absolute cornerstone of this. Also, like attracts like. It takes 33 milliseconds for somebody to assess whether they're going to like you or not. 33 milliseconds. Boom. So when we talk about first impressions making a difference, oh yeah, they're there. First impressions, but our energy fields also give off energy on, do you want to be around this person? So what your body language looks like, how approachable are you? Do you look inviting? Do you have a smile on your face? Like, what does that look like? And like attracts like. So this is not just from an appearance standpoint, but when you look at people for their interests and their background and what makes you feel like you would like to have any type of connection with this person, it's an instantaneous reaction based on our physiological just composition. So think about that the next person that you're walking down hallway, and if you exchange a smile or whatnot, see if you can feel that energy, because it's pretty impressive. The other big thing that we're looking at when we look at being hardwired is that everybody has a fundamental need to belong. This is why people were part of tribes. People were part of, this is why we have families. There is that fundamental belonging and that need to feel that there are people that have your back to keep you safe and secure and to help you along the process of life. You see this in animals. You see this in like that animal kingdom. You see it with humans. It is a hardwired, fundamental scientific need that we all need to just survive. Also, the chemical components, it boosts oxytocin. So in order to establish connection, we have to be able to help by giving. The more vulnerable and the more exposure that you can give to somebody of yourself, the more likely they are going to be to like you. Because remember, like attracts like, and that there's more availability to establish that connection. By showing you care, that can also help boost this oxytocin. People want to feel seen, heard, acknowledged, and valued, whether it be your child, whether it be you as a parent, or you wanting that from your parent, whether you want that from your boss, your teammates, your partner in life, your friends. People want to feel seen, heard, acknowledged, and valued. And depending on your attachment style, you might like one more than the other. One of my best friends happens to be an anxious attachment style. So she wants to be heard, and not even just heard, she wants to be understood. It's very important to her. So when we look at like love languages and these attachment styles, and we're trying to figure out people, I know that I have to reiterate things that she has said and then apply them to what we're talking about to make sure she feels understood. For me, I'm an avoidant, probably a little bit of the adoption stuff in there. I need to be seen. Like I need to feel that somebody has seen who I am in order to feel valued. And that's what helps boost my oxytocin. So as we've dug into a lot of the self-development this year, since I get to teach a self-development class at Drake University, a lot of this stuff has come to light, but it makes sense because these are the elements that boost our oxytocin, that make us feel good. Those are those elements that through the connections with other people, we not only learn about ourselves, but we can help figure out what it is that actually boosts our hormones, which then boosts our immune system, and we're feeling great. And then of course, hugging. The more that you are able to play with other people and you can exchange those physical interactions of hugs, those are like what really release those connection chemicals. Think about when you were like 3 or 4 years old and you would get lost in time playing in a sandbox. It's not something that you're consciously thinking of. It just kind of dissipates. And you are so involved in that moment to understand what it feels like to just simply be playing with someone. Or if you had a neighbor and you played Barbies or race cars or whatever it was at that time, and you had that connection with the other people that you're playing with, and time becomes obsolete. Then there's also the hugs. Everyone knows when you've had one of those amazing hugs to the point where your body just relaxes because you've had this chemical release. This is the oxytocin releasing. It helps calm the central nervous system and release. So some things to think about why this whole connection piece is so important. So we're here to build camaraderie. We want to figure out what it is to take movement or momentum and movement. So let's talk about the basics of building rapport. So a couple of reminders. If you attended last time, this was one of the things that you were supposed to be working on. If you see something, say something. If you like someone's haircut, clothing, they've done something nice, they've said something, they held a door, see something, say something. You would never know the power and the impact that you can have by giving a smile to someone, commenting on, hey, you look great in that color, or your hair looks nice today. Those tiny little elements matter so much depending on where somebody's at in that specific point in time. And if you feel that nudge to be like, oh, I love their shoes, say something. It's an easy opener to start connection. Then you can start a conversation. This happened to me earlier this week. We were at the Higher Education Risk Management Conference, and this woman had on these great glasses. And I was like, you look fantastic. You wear those glasses really well. Ends up being a 20-minute conversation in the bathroom. And to all my ladies that are on this today, you guys know how that goes. We end up talking in the bathroom. You meet your best friends in the bathroom. It's just kind of funny. But we ended up talking later that day, and she's like, it made my day. Thank you for that comment. It made my day. And that's those things. So when you see something, say something. One of the easiest things to start with these components. And then listen with purpose. When people are sharing information with you, this is our time. Time is so imperative. So listen with purpose and intent, not seeking to understand or not seeking to respond, but seeking to understand, and always assume good intent. Sometimes people come off crass, or we have like East Coast versus Midwest versus West Coast. You've got all these different types of communication. So always assume good intent and listen with purpose. And then giving people a reason to remember you. You want this exchange to feel good. You want people to have a positive experience of exchanging time with you. Because when something is in a neutral position, it doesn't make you memorable, and then it might as well have just been a negative impact. You want to leave things and leave people better than you found them. Looking at this from any type of exchange, you walk away and you feel good after spending time, moments, minutes, hours with somebody. And then when you expect the worst, that is exactly what you're going to get. Remember, humans focus on a negativity bias. We are formulated in a negativity bias. So when you expect the best in people, people will always surprise you. If you expect the worst, that is exactly what you're going to get. So know what your own mind frame is before you're walking into situations. The next piece for these basics of understanding how we're going to get this human connection going and how we're going to start cultivating camaraderie. Know yourself. And so when we look at this from a couple of landscapes, we look at this from a team building standpoint we're going to talk about, and then your professional network, and then team building. But you need to know you. One, are you an introvert or an extrovert? How is your energy received? If you're going to go and you're going to go network and you're going to try and build your brand and build your people and build what you need to get where you want to go in life, do you need time to recharge afterwards? Or are you going to be in a thriving environment because you love spending all this time with people? Figure out what you need to show up as your best self. Also, be aware of your personal and professional accomplishments, because this will help other people. If you can find ways to connect to other people and bring your best self and try and connect them to help cultivate a vision to help them become their best selves, this is where you're going to find your sweet spot. So you need to have your knowledge base, your strengths, your skills. What weaknesses do you have? And make sure that you understand your own blind spots as well. Next thing to do is to start evaluating your circles. Look at your professional circle and your personal circle. Who are the 5 people you surround yourself with most? Show me those 5 people and I can tell you who you are. That's what's fascinating about this. It is so important to know who you spend your time with, because their attitudes, their beliefs, and how they approach life will be how you do as well. I used to think, oh, it's not true. You can have friends that are kind of Debbie Downer and still be positive to a point, but really focus on those 5 people and evaluate. Sometimes people need to be promoted. Sometimes people need to be retired from these circles. Sometimes we just need to branch out. Maybe you have different goals at this point of your career. I don't hang out with the same people that I hung out with in high school or elementary school. You may or may not as well, because sometimes we evolve, and that's okay. It's okay to expand, evolve, and promote with it. Some of the other things, pay attention to your energy bank. So not only is this an energy bank for you and you with other people, but also think about how you deposit into your energy bank. So when you are with your circles or your people, you're trying to build human capital or build camaraderie or build teams, you have to put deposits into that bank account by either helping people, by connecting, making different connections, doing good deeds, really reinforcing any type of accomplishments or strengths, really giving people those positive deposits into their bank account. So in case something negative happens, your rapport and your reputation can take the hit, because there's a couple of things with this. One, stuff's going to happen, and you want to make sure that your relationships can survive the hits, whether it be intentional or unintentional. Also, people like to talk, people like to gossip, and they don't like to gossip about the good stuff. They like to gossip about the things that are unfortunate. And so to make sure that you have built enough of your own personal brand and your personal rapport to be able to take a hit like that, where either people don't believe it, or you've got people that are going to assume good intent. Well, it wasn't meant to be that way. So think about your energy bank and how you have spent depositing into other people and what you've done to really help yourself. Then when you're looking at the people that you're surrounding yourself with, this is where we really do evaluate, we revitalize, we maintain. But these also, we really have to look at it like it's a bank account. This is an investment. We invest time, talents, and treasures with people. So how are you using that, your time, talent, and treasures, to invest into people and into your circles? And then take a moment to look at what your goals are. What are your goals for the next 6, 12, or 18 months? Who do you need to be a part of those? What do you need? I switched from being just on the work comp claim side to going into risk management, and my professional circle switched pretty heavily, because not only did I need work comp background, I needed all the other lines and landscapes as well. And so I started to look for other risk managers that I could either use as mentors or to just kind of build into my own professional circle for people that I could ask advice of, because I needed to figure out a whole landscape that I didn't know anything about. And that's okay. We've got people here that are ready and willing to help. So think about that from your own landscape of who do you need and what do you need? Because then you can start building some momentum with, do you know someone? Do you know someone that would be good for this? Or I'm looking at this, or we're going to look at this landscape. Do you know anyone? Can you help? And then also, what can you do back? So I joke about this, but Iowa nice is a thing. I like to smile. I'm pretty friendly. I joke when people say, oh, where are you from? And I say, Iowa. We've probably flown over. We wave. There was a big thing about this. There was a big video made in Iowa that joked about this concept, but it's a very real thing. We absolutely do this Iowa nice thing. And it is, we're approachable. We try to be really nice, smiling, pleasant, etc. It matters if you are a likable person. And what I mean by that is, are you approachable? Or do you sit there with, or are you going to be excited and smile at somebody that's walking down the hallway? Being approachable is a very important element of this. When you're meeting someone for the first time, or you're trying to expand your network, or you're doing a virtual coffee chat, try right away to find connection points. So many times people think we come from different worlds, but there are so many things that connect us. While our differences are those dividing factors, there are so many things that can help us just bring ourselves together by looking for those connection points, and then taking it to the next level of looking at things through a different lens or a landscape. So find a mutual connection. Maybe you both know someone. Maybe you both went to a university and you possibly know this mutual connection. So look for a person. You could also look for a mutual interest. Like, what do you like to do? One of the things that I think is really important is when we're introducing ourselves, we talk about anything else other than our jobs. We tend to identify with our jobs. We tend to identify with our positions in a family. We don't necessarily look at like who we are at our core. So if you like to be a runner, maybe you identify as that. If you like to be outdoorsy, identify as that. What interests do you have outside of your job? It's amazing. There's a big landscape with that. And then maybe you have a mutual organization that you both like. Maybe you both have an interest in the arts. And so maybe you're interested in the Joffrey Ballet, or maybe you're both part of an alumni association, or you both support Habitat for Humanity or an animal rescue league of some kind. You can find different ways to connect through looking at it from a connection and interest or an organizational lens. Or you can always ask somebody, what's a challenge for you right now? And how can I help? Sometimes people, when we're doing these virtual coffee chats, we're trying to make our connections, we're doing virtual connections. We end up doing that. Okay, what do you like? Who are you? All right, cool. And we tell each other stories, but what makes that connection, that powerful connection, is figuring out if someone can solve a problem for you. And this can be really helpful with, okay, I know someone here, maybe I could connect you to, or, oh, you're having that issue at work. Wait, I know someone. And just trying to do these connection pieces. One of the biggest things to try and walk away from, especially when you're doing virtual coffee chats, or you're trying to network, is make a connection for this person with 3 other people. If we all started to do this, can you imagine how big our networks would grow? And this can help with camaraderie, because We're looking at making quality connections for other people. By doing so, that can drive our meaning and purpose with whatever landscape we're in and what our goals are into the positive direction of where we're headed. So when we look at professional network development, we want to have high value relationships. So much of our industry has become transactional, where I want to buy something for you, or I want to sell you something. Well, let's start with the basics of this. Relationships are at the foundational core of this. So in order to start with that, people want to know, like, and trust who they're working with. We also want to make sure that we understand the difference between strong links and weak links. So one of our friends just became a risk manager of a different city. And when we were talking about strong and weak links over the weekend, he had mentioned, when I was out looking in the job landscape, I had talked to my close friends, my close network, my big circle, my circle of 5. And, people have made recommendations, but it was through my weak links. So think about like your LinkedIn connections that maybe you don't talk to all the time, but somebody had posted this position that he ended up taking as a result of just being connected through the LinkedIn landscape. So there's a lot of power that goes into having these relationships, whether they're ones that you're investing in regularly, you looking at that bank account, looking at it from a monthly perspective of who are you talking to on a monthly basis. And then what about those other connections using social media platforms or friends of friends? Because all of these do matter. And when you're building camaraderie and you're trying to change momentum into movement, all of that type of influence is going to matter with where you're going with the trajectory of what you're trying to accomplish. And being nice is a superpower. We cannot control what happens to us, but we can control how we respond. And so being nice, kind is clear, thinking among those Brene Brown terms, it is a superpower because you can kill people with kindness and still get a lot done in the process. And at the end of the day, most messages can be communicated in a very kind way. And so being nice is one of the easiest things to talk about. And there's actually a bigger section on this coming up. So really think about this for a moment. Show me who you hang out with and I will show you who you are. Did anyone have a parent that would have made the assimilation when you were a child? Like, hey, I don't want you hanging out with that person. There's a reason for that, because again, show me who you hang out with and I will show you who you are. Yes, there's the one-offs, but for the most part, look at the circle. Who are you running around with? You guys probably have some of the same mission, vision, values, and characteristics that exist within your circle. So looking at it from that landscape, I can show you who you are by the people that you're hanging out with. And then what do you do when you have ideas that are outside your wheelhouse? This whole idea of cultivating camaraderie and making movement into momentum is looking at, all right, if you only hang out with your circle, then what happens when ideas come and that you need a different type of landscape or different skill set or different wheelhouse to try and think outside the box or innovate or look at things through a different lens? So let's keep going with that. Strategic relationships are critical. So we're looking at relationships that are going to provide a mutual benefit. So we will both receive something great from this standpoint. So this is where you could exchange information, you can exchange further contacts, money might be exchanged, but the idea is that everybody's going to succeed. And so when we're looking at trying to find things that are outside of our wheelhouse or outside of our norm to build our networks, we want to look at it in a different context. So we, as the work comp community, we tend to stay very in our work comp community. Well, in order to benefit and grow our network, let's branch out into other areas. Let's branch out into financial services. Who are your peers in a financial services area? Who are your peers in the hospitality industry? What about the manufacturing sector? If we start to look at networking in a different context of people that are in different positions, we can get a different landscape and a different lens on what problems, issues, or solutions that we're looking for. And people can help. I might know somebody who could do this, or I know somebody internationally that can do this. And it starts to help build a more strategic and meaningful relationship that is outside of your norm. So we've got to get out of that comfort zone. Your group and your network should be able to help enhance your reputation. They should also be inspiring and be respectful. So again, show me who you are or show me who you hang out with. I'll show you who you are. Think about that when you're looking at it from a group standpoint, et cetera. And our our strategic relationships should help provide access to opportunity. Well, we're a pivotal part of that. Who are we providing opportunity to? You know, the landscape, when we look at it from a jobs market right now, there are so many opportunities that are available. And so knowing people that know of openings or know of people who are talented or have these skill sets that we're looking for, find ways to help and be mutually beneficial through your strategic relationships. I love this quote from Mother Teresa. I can do things you cannot do. You can do things that I cannot do. And together we can do great things. Love this because I think it's super important. Here's my skill set. Here's yours. Let's go together. So some questions for you to ponder about yourself. What does the proportion of strategic relationships you have relate in the context to your other network relationships? Because we're going to dive in here, and this is where we're going to have some challenges and some homework from this. How many people do you talk to on a regular basis? Does everybody have their phone out? Go ahead and look and see. Who have you been talking to? Are these people you talk to on a regular basis? And then ask yourself, does this communication add value? Now, I'm not saying that if your mother is a negative human being that you stop talking to her because she's still your mother, but think about this. Like, does the communication that you're having with people add value to your life? And are you adding value to theirs? Again, this is a mutually beneficial relationship. And then, do you have a wish list of people that you'd like to connect with? Are there people that you would like to know in other industries or within your own or higher up in an organization? What does that wish list look like? And what's your plan to go connect to them? How do you start to build rapport? And how do you build a relationship with these people? What's your plan? So who is important for your network? And this is an internal reflection thing. So first of all, what is your purpose? What are you trying to achieve? And then when you are looking to go with this whole networking and looking at ways to build momentum and build relationships, one of the most important things, think about your purpose. Well, how can you help somebody else? And this is where we're looking at that problem solving again. All right, tell me what's one thing that I could help you with today. All right, well, here's an issue. And it can be something as simple as, have you seen any good movies lately? Have you read a good book? Giving those type of ideas to people is as simple as giving a small random act of kindness by sharing information, a restaurant, a book, a movie, any type of problem that you can help someone solve, such as like weekend plans, can help add up, build trust, build rapport, and start to establish that connection in that relationship. So this is where we're going to dig in. You've got your it's the 5-50-10. This is from the book, The Power Connector. It's freaking awesome if you have not read it. So top 5, who's your inner circle? Now this, you can kind of call this your board of directors maybe, but even more intimate than that. Spouses, parents, best friends, husband, boyfriend, wife, girlfriend, business partner. You contact these people more than once a week, and these are your ride or die. You're going to go above and beyond to make sure that they're okay, that they're safe, they're taken care of. And if they call, yes, you're answering. They're probably in your top contacts. You probably have them pinned if they're a messaging person. Then the next level we're going to go to are your key 50. These are your valuable relationships. So these are friends and associates that you connect with about once per week, and they add value to your life and you add value to theirs. Then the next layer, this is kind of like opening up a flower. We're starting with making it bloom. The next are your vital 100. These are your more distant friends and business acquaintances, but heck yeah, you're going to go give them a hug when you get to see them at a conference that you haven't seen them for a couple of years. You don't talk to probably more than once a month, but it's important that you keep these relationships viable. So who are these people for you? Don't worry, I'm not going to ask you to write down your lists, but start thinking about what kind of relationships, and when you're interacting with people, where do they fall? Do they fall into your inner circle? Are they your key 50 or are they your vital 100? And how are you maintaining these relationships? So kind of like we talked about a bank account, relationships are also like a garden. Are you pruning the garden when it's necessary? Are you feeding the garden? Are you watering the garden? What does that look like? And how are you investing in this for people to want to invest in you back? People who act as bridges between groups are more likely to be rewarded financially and otherwise. Robert Burt. One of my really good friends, Scott Carpenter, used to say, I want to introduce all of your people to all of my people so we can all be one big circle together. He's like, I've never understood why people want to keep their connections so close. It's beneficial. I want to know your friends. You should want to know mine, and then we can all be friends. And I've always liked thinking about that. You take your circle, I'm going to take mine, and let's introduce as many of them as possible because they can probably help solve each other's problems. I know a guy who can do this. Those connection pieces are so important and so imperative. And the more that you can do that, the more you'll be rewarded in return. So let's look at our circles from a diversity and depth standpoint. So number one, we got to get out of our comfort zone. If you want to go make an introduction with someone, go do it. We are adults. The stranger danger does not exist anymore. You are an adult. You are responsible. You want to go meet someone, let's go meet someone. So you've got to also take that moment to look for people who disagree with you. When I give networking advice to college students and to high school students, I always tell them, look around the room and the person you are least likely to go talk to that person. Because in that moment, you will find differences and similarities that might help expand your knowledge base. So for example, I always, when I'm at an insurance company, like to talk to the actuaries because they see things in a very different lens than I ever have. Now they tend to be very quiet, the ones that I've had the pleasure of working with. And I'm not, I'm out there, I'm bold, I'm bright. I want to be, here's glitter and sparkles. And they help ground me and give me the data and the resources that I need to be able to be glittery and sparkly and taken seriously. So when I say that when we have to look for people who are going to either disagree with you or give you different viewpoints, they can be incredibly helpful and they can help you with your blind spots and help identify ways for you to be a better communicator, a better connector, and to have a better philosophy for how you approach your problems or your objectives that you need to obtain. So look at that. You want your network and your building of this camaraderie circle to be wide, deep, and robust. So when we talk about it, why? Connections that are different from you, make it a wide range. And this could be differences not only in age or generation, but looking at different industries. And I really want to emphasize the industries because while we might get so emboggled in our own industry, there are a lot of them out there. It's an infinite, very big, beautiful, abundant world. And we sometimes get such tunnel vision that it's nice to be reminded that there are other people in different worlds and different realms that are fascinating to talk to and that can have such an enriching part to your life. And look for things that are just different interests. What keeps you interested in things? Well, find people that support those objectives and initiatives. Then you've got to make it deep. So we've made our network wide and now we're going to go deeper. It needs to be multi-layered. So if you're going to look at different positions, all right, how far do you want to go? I always find it very incredibly important to understand what the doers are doing. It's incredibly important. How do you make those people's lives easier? If they need a growth path or a trajectory, what are you doing to help? How do you get where you're going? How can you invest into these people to make sure that you're helping through this process? There are so many different ways to achieve a goal. Making these deep-seated connections can help you get there and help you find ways to achieve. And then a robust network. How willing are people to help you? Well, how willing have you been to help them? So this is a lot of that self-analysis and what can you bring to the table to add value to these relationships? Relationships, we're going to be taking people's time. Time is money. How are you adding value and helping somebody to help bring more trust to this relationship and to really feed it, nurture it, and deposit into that bank account? So let's look at this from a team standpoint now. So we've talked about our own individual network for trying to build those relationships from that standpoint, but how do we build team camaraderie? Well, let's start with emotional intelligence to begin. And I'm going to define emotional intelligence through the Cambridge Dictionary, the ability to understand the way people feel and react, to use this skill to make good judgments to avoid or to solve problems. Now, remember, people want to be seen, heard, acknowledged, and valued. So think about that lens as we look through this through an emotional intelligence landscape. And remember, you can have every business strategy under the sun, executing at that moment and implementing ready to go. And human behavior can always derail it because humans are complicated. We're multifaceted. We believe multiple things at a time. We feel multiple emotions at a time. Sometimes our emotions can outweigh our objectives. And so we've got to really focus on understanding that, one, assume good intent, and two, know there's a backstory. All of us have psychosocial issues that impact our decision-making capacity and that we sometimes have to check ourselves with. All right, am I looking at things through an emotional lens or am I looking at things from a factual lens? I just actually worked with a student on this. Oh, shoot, didn't mean to do that. Worked with a student on this where she was telling me, I had this situation, I'm really upset. I didn't appreciate the way this person was doing this. And I said, okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you to write this out. I want you to write the story out as you just told it to me. I want you to sit with it for 12 hours, sleep on it, maybe go 24, and then revisit it and cross out anything that you don't know to be true to a fact. If there is no objective fact to support what you wrote, cross it out. That's your emotion talking. Then go back and reread it again. So she came back to me a couple days later and I said, all right, how did it go? And she said, I ended up crossing out the whole thing. So you've got to think about how we are processing things because again, we do get emotional. We attach a lot of emotions to our job titles, whatever position we hold in an organization, our work product. We attach a lot of that as into who we are. And so when we're looking at how we're going to build camaraderie in teams, think about it from those standpoints. People put a lot of time, effort, blood, sweat, tears into projects and into objectives and into setting goals and into their organizations. So that when we come to things, we have to understand that we're coming at this in a very multiple approach, whether it be from a multifunctional or a multi-behavior standpoint, or really focusing on those emotions. So 2 most important attributes that we need to pay attention. 1, when you're building camaraderie, you need to understand human behavior, not only your teams, you got to understand your own. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? How do you show up? How are you perceived? What do people think of you when you walk into a room? Are you approachable? Are you scary? Think about that. I mean, those things matter. You're going to try and build team camaraderie and you're a scary person to approach. Oh, check your energy. How you feeling? And then communication. Building team camaraderie starts with solid communication. And it doesn't have to be fluffy communication. I'm talking about just getting messaging out to your teams. People want to know information. They want to feel that this is trust. They want to feel the trust through transparent communication as much as possible. And to be able to build that trust and build that camaraderie around clarity, alignment, and purpose. We've got our vision. We know where we're going. What is the purpose? What's the why? And this all stems from understanding how communication is received and making it consumable, but then also understanding human behavior. Understand the timing of how important it is to explain the when. Does everybody receive information from a one sheet, or should it be a meeting, or heaven forbid another email, or a meeting that should have been an email? Think about things like that. So understand human behavior, your own and others, as well as communication. And also we talked earlier about having that vulnerability, and the more that you can actually expose yourself to other people, the better that they'll receive you. Sometimes things aren't going to go well. Sometimes we're going to have bad days, and it is okay to be human. It's okay to not be okay too. But also that comes down to understanding human behavior. Again, your teams and your own. So I've used this in the past. Keeping people warm is important. So we're talking about that human connection. How do you continue to foster that human connection? You got to care more about people than the job itself. So how do you start investing in that? When's the last time that you've talked to your team about anything outside of work? When is the last time that we have asked somebody, how are you doing really? When we're looking at building camaraderie in teams, there's a lot that goes into expectations and accountabilities and people being held to those. Animosity can breed when people are not held to the same expectations or accountability falls to the wayside. We all know that one person that shouldn't probably be on the team. Those type of things do exist. So what are we doing to help continue to build the camaraderie by holding people accountable and using those expectations to hold the accountability to a transparent landscape? Then there's also making sure that people feel appreciated. Remember, seen, heard, acknowledged, and valued. Do you know your team's love languages? Who needs those words of affirmation and that public praise? Or who wants a spot bonus? Or who wants simply a recognition via email? Understanding what communication needs your team has and what's going to help them thrive because you understand their needs can really foster that camaraderie through appreciation, acknowledgement, and again, that accountability landscape. And remembering that we're a team. As a team, together we can achieve more, and together we'll get through this. Things to think about while we're building. Also, listening to what people say. The language, the power of tense can tell you the mindset that someone is in. So when we're trying to build momentum with the team, listening to what is going on. If someone is talking in the past, they are fighting. There is a reality shift that needs to occur. There tends to be more victimizing, more blame. It's somebody else's fault. So listen to the verbiage that is being used by your team members when we're trying to build this momentum and this shift in our camaraderie. If someone's talking in the present, they tend to be more tribe oriented, could be a little bit more divisive in an us versus them situation, but this is where we're at least moving somewhat in the right direction. We're not in the past, but we're not to where we want to be. Then if you hear people talk in the future, we're solution oriented. We're ready to attack. Here's what we're going to do. This is how we're going to get there. It's going to be okay. We have a plan for that. We're going to be moving this. And you see people talk about the future and they're more optimistic. Ideally, that's where we would like to get, but you can hear where your team members are by listening to the verbiage that they use along the way. And then you can adjust your leadership style or your communication style to help foster wherever you need to go to get these objectives obtained. So again, pay attention to past, present, or future. It's going to tell you everything about where your mindset is of your team members. And as we're building this camaraderie and we're trying to generate momentum through this, pay attention to what you hear so that you know what to do, what to say, and how to behave to get the team to collectively move forward. Communication is so important, making sure that you are telling the most transparent story that you can to everyone that needs to be involved. Giving one person a piece of information. So I'm just going to go with the people on my screen. If I give Mari one piece and I give Kay one piece and I give Donna one piece, and then I just expect them to figure it out and put the puzzle pieces together, that's not helpful. What ends up happening is it's fragmented communication and people feel that they are not given transparency, even if that was not the intent. We've got to be good at making sure that you not over communicate so much, but as clarity communicate. When you're working with people, making sure that you publicly praise them, if that's what they like. Publicly praise, privately critique. But if you have someone who is a huge introvert and does not like public recognition, I would not say, let's host a giant team meeting and everyone have this person stand up in the middle and celebrate them. This comes from understanding your team's love languages or understanding what kind of need they have to feel fulfilled within their career path. Verify to clarify. Sometimes people are going to say things that we are going to think we understand what they mean, or we're going to make assumptions. Well, you guys all know about what assumptions lead to. So making sure we verify to clarify and then seek to understand. Okay, help me understand where you're coming from. Because sometimes we're exchanging information in an electronic context. So maybe it is through a messenger, maybe it is through email, maybe it's through text message. We need to be better at understanding what the intended message is. So verification is imperative on this. And pick up the phone. Picking up the phone to clarify these things, very important as well. Using statements like I think, I feel, I believe can also help diffuse any situations when you're trying to seek understanding through communication. And then using things so when we're going to try and join, here we go, we're going to move forward with this. We're going to build together as a team. I want, you want, we could, and we start using this for non-negotiables and what we're going to do as a collective unit to drive this forward. So then when we're with our team and we're still trying to build, we're still building, we're trying to establish that momentum, we're building camaraderie with our peers, ask questions. People like to talk about themselves. Ask questions. Not only does it help demonstrate interest and caring, you are going to learn so much because remember, we're listening with purpose now. It's going to shift the attention away from you because this isn't about you. If it's your team, it's about your team. It's going to help spur learning and an exchange of ideas, especially if you're doing this in a group landscape. It's going to help the exchange of ideas go back and forth. Asking questions provides that cornerstone component of connection, which is building trust. And when you ask people questions, it also helps create an opportunity for self-reflection. Is there something that I should be doing differently? Maybe I could ask this. Are they talking about me? Okay. But this also helps understand if you have people that get very defensive when questions are asked, it's going to uncover the desire or their willingness to change and actually be a part of the team, especially if this is an unforeseen, excuse me, not an unforeseen, but an unfortunate communication exchange. When you ask questions, it will showcase how people respond. Because remember, it's not about what's happening to you, it's how you respond. So that response, that desire and that willingness to figure out what you need and how we're going to get there, that is a huge component of what matters. So we're building trust, we're building transparency because we're trying to improve our rapport. So this is where we ask noticing and connecting questions as well. Pay attention to what your team says. You're trying to build this rapport amongst this group. So what's going on in people's lives outside of work? Does somebody have a child that's in softball or a child that's in baseball? Or here comes summer. What did you guys do for spring break? Asking any type of connecting questions that allow somebody to bring their whole self to work can be really helpful. Then try and find a way to relate to that. If you have children, great. If you have a dog, they have a dog, great. You both like the same sports teams. Did you see who got drafted? This is what's going on. Find ways to relate. You need 3 connection points, 3. And sometimes I know that for many decades, we have talked about not doing this. And I'm telling you, we got to rethink that. Let's tear it up, add some color, throw some sparkles at it, and actually start caring about everybody that we're working with on our teams. Ask questions that get people to open up and reflect. When you can hear whether they're going to come at you when you ask questions that are going to open them up, how do they respond to you? Are they using past tense? Are they using present tense? Are they using future tense? You can start using all of these to connect and better understand what mind frame your team is in and what you can do to better help support them for the overall success of their individual growth, your team development, and organizational success. Also, make people feel comfortable. When you're using those relating methods or you're using a relating story and you're explaining and you talk about feelings, that can help people feel comfortable. It's not only being approachable, but it's also offering some things of you that other people might not know. And it's okay because those vulnerability components end up being the big connecting components that make people trust as well as feel seen, heard, acknowledged, and valued. So, ladies, it's different for you. I'm sorry. It is a different world in the networking, communication, building camaraderie components. So let's talk about it. In the 1980s, since the Masters just occurred, at one time, women weren't allowed in the clubhouse. There was a journalist who was sent in 1982 to come cover a story for the Masters, and they actually moved the lunch to the trophy room instead of just inviting her into the clubhouse. So yeah, that wasn't that long ago either. It's like 40 years ago. I'm not great at mental math. Thank you. 42 years ago. Thanks, Donna. Do you think the 90s got much better? All of the research in the 90s about women being held back in the workplace, not all, excuse me. There was a heavy amount of literature that had been researched that was talking about why women weren't supporting other women. It wasn't men holding people back. It was women holding each other back. So what does that look like now? One of my favorite leaders told me that there was a special place in hell for women who don't help other women. Becky Kenyon, you're still one of my ride or dies. I love you to death. It's a very real concept. Why don't we help each other? Why aren't we lifting one another up? So from a female standpoint, I want you to think about 3 things. And to my men, just being aware of this is great as well. There are 3 areas of focus that we need to have that are different. We need to be very intentional and connect strategically. We have to speak up for ourselves, and we have to support one another. It is absolutely the most imperative piece of moving forward. So connecting strategically, supporting young women is not common. If you do not have a mentee on this call right now, go find one. And I mean that because we have to start building up from within. We have to find talent and help them grow. Be that person that we needed when we were younger. Build relationships with superiors you admire. And the thing is, with women, there's only about 4% in that CEO seat. So if you want to start striving for that, there's not as many up there. It's a lot easier for men because men are everywhere. They're in every position. Women get stuck in that middle management. And if we want to help each other thrive, we've got to start breaking outside of that shell and start asking people to help us that are in those other positions. You can reach out into other industries for this too. Looking at different vice presidents and CEOs from different industries can help you be successful. A lot of the components remain the same. Ask people, have those connections, ask people for coffee. Most people will give you their time. Most people will give you a cup of coffee, have a coffee conversation, network, build those rapport, build that camaraderie, build, and offer help and provide value to enhance those relationships. For every ask, you need to deposit 2 favors. Think of that in the 2 to 1, 2 favors for every ask, and make sure you always thank the other person. That's one of my favorite things to do, is to write thank you notes for people's time. It's not common anymore, but it's something that you also feel good in the process of doing. Kindness is that simple. So we talk about being kind. This is one of my favorite things. I don't know if I actually clicked the button. So I'm also running short on time, but if you did not see this, Lady Gaga and Liza Minnelli, when they were presenting at the Oscars, Liza Minnelli was struggling a little bit, and Lady Gaga just takes her arm and puts it on Liza Minnelli's and says, I got you. And she turns back and says, I know. That is what we need to see more of. It's that simple, just having one another's back. Oh, it might play. Can you hear this? Oh, good.
You see that? Yeah, the public, they love you. Oh, yes, but now I don't understand. Good evening. You know how I love working with legends. Oh, my baby. And I'm honored to present the final award of the evening with a true show business legend. She's celebrating the 50th anniversary of Cabaret. Oscar award-winning actress, Liza Minnelli. Throughout the night, we've seen highlights of the 10 best nominated for Best Picture awards. Now we're going to show you something else, and then we're going to tell you who the nominees are right now. Oh, good. I got you.
That simple. It's that simple. So easy. It's a powerful reminder. So 10 building blocks to camaraderie. Start with 3 golden questions when you're going to meet someone. How can I help you? When you're ending a coffee conversation or a networking, what ideas do you have for me? Or who else do you know that I should talk to? Don't be afraid to ask. Most people are willing to give this information. We just have to be willing to ask the right questions. If you are not succeeding, you are in the wrong room. Don't forget, most people get stuck looking for love in the wrong places. For every tough problem, there is a match with a solution. Critical resources are attached to people. Business is about people. So figuring out how we network and we communicate and we connect, it's all about people. Measure the value of your relationships, not by their net worth, but by their head, heart, and gut. Remember that energy exchange, that energy that we give off to one another, you can't hide it. You can feel it, you know. And when you know, you know. Stranger danger is a fallacy. We're adults. Be better than that. Yes, we tell kids that, but no, not when you're an adult. Do your research, know who you're talking to, network the way you should. Most people must know, like, and trust you before they will share social capital. So again, finding those 3 connecting points. Be likable, be approachable. Don't get lost in a crowd. Create a wide, deep, and robust key 50. Again, going back to our planting, that you water, bathe in sunshine, fertilize to grow, and prune as needed. Keep the rule of 2. Give 2 favors for every ask. And introductions are your most valuable collateral. I spelled that wrong. It's great. So only create win-win connections. It's got to be a value proposition for both parties. Because if it falters, guess who they're going to come back to? And always engage with random acts of kindness. It can be as simple as putting your arm on somebody's shoulder when they're in a time of need and just telling them that you've got them. So with that, don't forget the last piece of this. People want to be seen, heard, acknowledged, and valued. And if you can derive that in your relationships with every interaction that you have or every intentional networking, this is how you build camaraderie. This is how you build momentum. You remind people that they're valuable, and you make sure that they are seen, that they are heard, and that they are acknowledged. And that is how you build your momentum. All right, your homework, of course, because this is a masterclass series, got to have homework. Over the next month, your goal is to practice these. I'm going to challenge you to find one person that you will have 5 cups of coffee with, because we're going to build this connection muscle. 5. Same person, make that connection, make it deeper and deeper and deeper. 5 cups of coffee. If you have not done the 52 cups of coffee, that's 1 coffee a month or 1 coffee a week with a different person. Try it. If you don't know where to begin, get on LinkedIn and find someone who looks interesting and start there. I know there are people that are doing the 100 cups of coffee challenge, but this connection, building connection is a muscle, and it's one that you have to flex and you have to build. So it's time to start building. So try to find one person, do 5 cups of coffee. Otherwise, try and do those 52. Figure out what's going to work for you. Build these connection pieces. You guys got this. And remember, at the end of all of it, remember, people want to be seen, heard, acknowledged, and valued. And with that, it's 12:01. We'll let you guys go.